Allow me to introduce myself.
I am the last sane sports fan.
I am a genius by trade.
I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to The View from the Midwest. Well, there's been a hot topic going on in the world of soccer right now as the Women's World Cup rolls along. And the big topic that just will not die is the turf. Yes, the turf. The women right now are being forced to play on the new AstroTurf, which is 100 times better than the old stuff that they used to use in the 80s and 70s and early 90s even, in which it was basically just green carpet on top of concrete, and everybody wants to complain about how hard and how unforgiving the new stuff is and everything. Try playing on the old stuff and then come back and talk to me. That being said, the women shouldn't be playing on turf. It is unfair because the men have not been subjected to this in terms of international tournaments as of yet. And to use the women almost as guinea pigs as to see if it is viable in the future or not is very unfair. They shouldn't be playing on turf. The top level international tournaments should be played on grass across the board. What makes it even more disappointing is there was a company out there, apparently, that was willing to fit the bill for the grass and install it on the stadiums, and whether it was the stadiums themselves or whether it was FIFA by themselves with all their inner workings going on that denied that opportunity, that I don't know. But Abby Wambach came out and basically blamed the turf for the U.S.'s offensive struggles, and that really kind of irks me because I've watched the game so far, and yes, the turf does change the game. It changes the dynamic. You're going to have different bounces, different rolls, that kind of thing. But the United States offensive problems have nothing to do with turf. There was one instance that Abby Wambach did refer to in which a head ball that she nodded down into the ground and then bounced up and the keeper made a save might have gone in if it had been on grass, simply because it would have stayed closer to the ground and been more difficult to get to. That being said, everything else that she did, or said, excuse me, was quite irritating. She is more than entitled to her opinion on the matter, but to come out and say things the way that she did comes off as a little bit of a kind of spoiled brat kind of deal where it's like, oh, well, we would be dominating if we were playing on grass. Well, quite frankly, no, you wouldn't. The way that the U.S. is played right now, I don't think they would have had any different results if they had been playing on grass. They might look a little better, but I don't think it would be the difference in the score lines the way that they have turned out. And the big reason that that has come about is because they made a great point on ESPN FC. Julie Foudy and Kate Margraf talked about it. The teams that are succeeding right now are the teams that have quick one-touch passing right to the feet of players, not trying long balls, not trying to have those little through balls that everybody has to run onto, because you can't judge the speed when you're used to playing on grass, and thus the different fields are also playing differently as well. Some are slower, some are faster, and that's going to be, unfortunately, the way that you have to deal with it on turf, but you had to deal with that on grass. Some fields are grown longer, some are cut shorter, some have different grass. The ball's going to be playing differently. You have to adjust to the surface, and the United States has not done that very well. The other thing that irritates me is Abby Wambach going on about how she has been more hesitant to go after balls full force because of fear of injury on the turf. Yes, turf hurts. You're going to get burns, you're going to get scrapes, you're going to get cuts and whatnot if you're going full force out there. But to say that you were hesitant, number one, they also pointed this out on ESPN FC, this is your last chance at a World Cup championship. It's unlikely that Abby Wambach is going to be playing at 39 years of age. Not impossible, but improbable. Therefore, what do you have to lose? If you go out and get injured, yes, it's disappointing, and yes, the U.S. chances of winning a World Cup lessen, but it's your last chance maybe anyway. So go full force, go balls to the wall, go all out. And the other thing that kind of irritates me about it is I've seen several goalkeepers wearing short sleeves on the turf because everybody's playing on turf, and yet they're still diving for balls. They're still going out and doing their job and not necessarily complaining. I mean, you can't tell me that a goalkeeper isn't going to be worried about scraping up their elbows if they're wearing short sleeves and they're playing on turf. But yet Abby Wambach, one of the best players of all time, men or women, quite frankly, sits there and says, oh, well, I don't know that I can go all out because I'm afraid of getting a little turf burn or getting cut up. Well, you need to get over that because there are goalkeepers out there that are doing it and doing a fine job out of it. But one of the best players in the world is using that as an excuse. And the United States can have no more excuses. They need to go out. They need to win over Nigeria coming up tomorrow. I think they will do that. And I think they'll finally kind of start to pick things up. But really, other than that, Megan Rapinoe has been the only consistent player right now for the United States. I don't care if you're playing on turf, grass, mud, dirt, whatever. Everybody else has kind of been in a situation where they're like, yeah, we're at the World Cup, yeah, this is fun, let's go out there and we're supposed to win, and everybody's just going to bow over. No, you got to go out there and play. You're in one of the most difficult groups in all of the tournament. You need to go out there and finally prove that you are capable of winning this World Cup, because right now it's 50-50 at best. But along that line, in the U.S.'s defense, everybody that kind of has lambasted Wambach and the United States in general about their lack of scoring has pointed to the fact, oh, well, Germany seems to have no problems. That's not an apples-to-apples comparison, because you look at the teams that Germany has been playing. They played Ivory Coast, a team that is in their first World Cup ever, did not play an international match. They played one international match in the year leading up to the World Cup, and other than that, they had absolutely nothing to do. They were actually very few even practices, so they got blasted 10-0 by one of the best teams in the world. Now, Germany, in their defense, is doing what they are supposed to do. They're playing lesser competition. They're going out there and they're doing what they need to do. But that being said, they're not being challenged. You can't tell how good or not Germany is due to the fact that they're scoring goals, because they're playing absolutely no defense. They won 4-0 today against Thailand, another team that is defensively lapsed, and obviously did a better job than the Ivory Coast. But again, playing against one of the better teams in the world, if you have no defense at all, then there are going to be goals scored. Germany played against Norway and only ended up coming up with barely a result. Because they actually went up against competition. Now, they did score a goal or two, and their offense was still clicking, but the United States, they scored 3 goals against Australia. Australia is a pretty good team. They scored, or they did not score against Sweden, but Sweden's more of a defensive team. They don't have a whole lot of speed, so you would have liked to have seen the United States get around inside the back, but unfortunately they weren't able to do that. But again, those are more United States problems as opposed to the competition that they're going up against. But the competition that they're going up against is far and away better than what Germany has seen, and thus Germany has scored more goals. So it's not necessarily an apples-to-apples comparison. The United States, once they get to the knockout round, I do think they'll find their footing. For whatever reason right now, I think they feel that they're comfortable. They won the first game. They know that the thing was in their wheelhouse as in terms of advancing. Mathematically, it was going to be very difficult not to advance after winning that first game. But both sides need to kind of find themselves. Germany needs to face a test. We'll see if they're going to get that in the next round. The United States has to win their next game. They need to win because they'll go through with a tie, but you don't want to have that happen. You want to go through getting confidence, rolling into the knockout round, really starting to prove that you are still one of the better teams in the league. Stop complaining about the turf. Women should not be playing on turf. That is not my argument, but They dropped the lawsuit for whatever reason. Perhaps they felt that it was going to ultimately cancel the World Cup and they didn't want to go through to that level. But you dropped the lawsuit. You're playing on World Cup. You played on turf. You sort of agreed to it more or less. You have to deal with it. You have to adapt. And unfortunately for the United States, they have not yet done so. That is the view from the Midwest. What are your views on the topics that I talked about today? If you're watching on YouTube, comment, rate, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. If you're watching on Facebook, comment there as well. And share it around with your friends. And we'll keep on rolling. But until the next time, I'll see you then.